Hello and welcome. My name is Trismegistus, and today we're going to be reading through and speculating about Friday Facts 375. Friday Facts 375 Quality, posted by Coverex. Hello. Today we are going to talk a little bit about a big feature in the expansion, quality. What is quality? Quality is everywhere. It's all around us, even now in this very room. You can see it when you look out the window or when you turn on your television. You can feel it when you go to work, when you go to church, when you pay your taxes. It is the world that has been pulled over your eyes to blind you from the truth. What truth? That you are a new Neo. Like everyone else, you were born into normal quality, into a prison that you cannot taste or see or touch, a prison for your factory. You take the blue module, the story ends. You wake up in your factory and believe whatever you want to believe. You take the white module, you stay in Wonderland, and I show you how deep the rabbit hole goes. Obviously nowhere near as good an actor as Lawrence Fishburne, but you can probably sense the Matrix reference there. Horizontal versus vertical growth. Horizontal growth is just using what I have to build more. More mining outposts, more production facilities, etc. Vertical growth is improving the efficiency in which I produce. Better assembling machines, better smelters, better modules, technology upgrades, and better setups. In the mid-game, you have to balance the vertical and horizontal growth, which is fun because you need to strategize more. In the end game, you mainly scale horizontally, and it is enjoyable too because you know you won't be changing the designs much. So you can attempt to have the final version and scale it up while there are new challenges appearing at the larger scale. I always wanted to extend the part of the game where you have to balance the vertical and horizontal growth, and quality seems like a nice general solution to do that. So what is quality? Every item, entity, and equipment has 5 possible qualities now, and each quality tier gives an improved bonus value used for most of the stuff. Normal, base quality for everything, no bonus. Uncommon, plus 30% bonus. Rare, plus 60% bonus. Epic, plus 90% bonus. Legendary, plus 150% bonus. We've then got some examples of this from in-game. There's an assembly machine 3 with a rare quality, a solar panel with legendary quality, a gun turret with uncommon quality, and a personal robot support Mark 2 with epic quality. The caption says just quality has various effects, and I believe the diamonds are showing those effects. All higher quality entities have more health, but apart from that, they get unique bonuses based on their type. Electric poles have larger supply area and wire reach, plus 1 tile per quality level. Modules have improved primary bonuses. Spidertrons and armor have larger equipment grids, plus 1 in each direction for each extra level. Spidertrons have a bigger inventory, and armors give a higher inventory size bonus. Equipment is generally better in what it does. Turrets and guns have more range. Ammo does more damage. Inserters move faster. Mining drills deplete resources slower. Assembling machines, furnaces, labs are faster. Worker robots have larger battery capacity. Roboports recharge robots faster. Solar panels produce more energy. Accumulators have larger battery capacity. Nuclear reactors, boilers, and steam engines have increased production. Beacons have lower power consumption. Radars have larger reveal ranges. Repair packs have more durability. There are a few entities which don't have any bonus apart from the health, which is belts, pipes, rails, chests, combinators, walls, and lamps. When these bonuses are combined, things can get pretty wild pretty quickly. 4 legendary production modules in an assembling machine 3 gives plus 100% productivity bonus. It was plus 40% before. Since this multiplies in multi-step production chains, the overall factory productivity gets quite a big boost. High-quality Spidertrons and armors with high-quality equipment get pretty powerful. There's actually a new achievement for having the best legendary armor full of legendary equipment. With the fast machines, modules, and inserters, some of the setups can get quite extreme. And so it presents this example of green circuit production. This symbol here, as we saw at the top here, represents legendary, so these are getting 150% bonus. The thing it's basically showing is that everything is legendary, that can be legendary, I guess. I'm not sure about the beacons, I think they're not legendary, but basically the assembly machine, because it's got this little symbol on the corner here, is a legendary assembly machine for all of these. All of the modules are legendary modules because they've got a symbol. All of the inserters are legendary inserters. The belts aren't. The beacons have got legendary tier 3 speed modules in, but as I say, I don't think the beacons themselves are legendary items. Presumably because that only gives a power saving, so it's not that hugely important. What this is effectively showing, although it looks like it's backed up, so it's not necessarily showing it fully, is that 2 assembly machines with these legendary effects going on can completely fill 2 belts. As I say, it looks like it's backed up, so that may not be the case. You'd have to do the maths on it, but it must be quite close. And as I say, basically what this is showing is that it's taking in a few lanes of iron and copper and pumping out lanes and lanes of green circuits. How do we get the higher quality? We wanted to make a system for semi-automated higher tiers of everything without the need to multiply all the recipes. Generally, just adding a huge amount of recipes isn't really adding to the game at this point, as we feel that the game already has enough, especially when we consider Space Age specific ones not yet revealed. At the same time, we wanted to add some complexity and also make the related complexities explicitly opt-in. This is how we came up with the idea of the new type of module, the quality modules. And here we see in the diagram, we have the 3 different quality modules. They appear to be the same in operation, as it were, in level as the speed and productivity and I guess efficiency as well, where you've got level 1, 2 and 3. They are white modules though. That's quite interesting. Quality module. The quality module has a special effect which increases the probability of getting higher quality results when crafting in a machine. So, for example, the most basic quality module 1, which is the same tier and availability as other tier 1 modules, has plus 1% quality increased chance. This means that when you insert the 1 module into an assembling machine and let it craft 1,000 iron gears from normal iron plates, you get 10 uncommon gear wheels on average. But when you insert more modules and increase their tier and quality, yes, quality of quality modules is a thing, this probability increases sharply. This was all about increasing quality, but an important part of the mechanic is that the quality of the ingredients is the base of the quality of the product. So getting higher quality intermediates is valuable too. On top of that, the quality increases can be not only 1 level at a time, but you can get lucky and get more steps at a time. Each additional step has a 10 times lower chance of happening. So for our previous examples, out of 1,000 gears, 9 would actually be uncommon and 1 would be rare. This shows this roughly in action in this next diagram. You've got different levels of quality modules. That's going to get difficult to say, isn't it? You've got level 1 quality modules, level 2 quality modules, level 3 quality modules, and then you've got legendary versions, so legendary quality of quality modules. So that is going to get very confusing. They are all in quality assembly machines, although we know that quality simply increases speed of production rather than giving a higher chance of quality, for example. But yes, so we've only got 1 occasional uncommon gear wheel coming out of the first machine, which has a level 1 quality module in it. So we see 1 comes out there. We step up to the next tier, which presumably get maybe a 5% bonus or something like that. We'll have to see what the numbers eventually come out as. But basically you're getting 2 at a much more frequent rate. So you see that they're sort of producing them at the same time because of how the numbers are presumably working. You see we're getting an extra 2 there, and then we get 2 more. So we've gotten 4 out of the same period of time. We stepped up to all level 3 quality modules, so it's producing sort of 3 at a time. It's a little difficult. This is why it's not, I don't think it's a great example, but presumably this is pumping out more uncommons, and you can sort of see 4 there, but there's 4 there, and it's because of the length of the belts. So you have to imagine that you're looking at a longer stretch of belt basically, so it gives a bit of an optical illusion, but this presumably is pumping out more. And then when you go up to legendary versions of quality 4, I mean basically almost half. No, it's more than half there, I think, isn't it? Oh well, it does a few none ones, doesn't it? So it's getting much more high quality, and you can also see that it's doing a few rare in that case. With these other ones, the percentage chance is quite low, so in this particular 10-second clip, it's not actually produced any. Quality calculation. So we've then got a table, the caption which says an example of the probabilities with 4 normal quality 3 modules. So they're of normal level modules themselves, just to avoid that confusion point. But what I've actually done, what it's basically saying is you get a 10% chance with 4, if you're putting in normal iron plate or uncommon iron plate or whatever it is, rare and epic. These are based on the RPG levels and I always get them all mixed up. Then basically, as the tier goes up, you get an increasing chance of producing the particular level. And the point is that even when you've got uncommon items being processed by high quality modules, there's a very, very rare chance of getting a legendary product out of it, basically. But it's very low probability, which is why I used 1,000 as the maths. Quality modules can't be inserted into beacons for the same reason you can't do it with productivity modules. But other than that, it is not limited. Since productivity modules are usable only on intermediates, there are plenty of places where the extra quality items might be produced without any productivity penalty. It is also notable that we created a quality penalty on speed modules, because haste makes waste. And we wanted to reduce the number of places where beacons full of speed modules is the best way to go. The last piece of the puzzle. Okay, so we presented a way to get some higher quality stuff, but it would still be quite weird with the not so good quality items piling up somewhere. This is why we added a new machine, the Recycler. Graphics are subject to change. I hope not, this looks awesome. Not only does it solve one of the biggest problems in Factorio, of how to get rid of all the pistols TrueBen made, it also allows you to get rid of the item quality which are no longer good enough with a chance to get something back. More specifically, for each crafted item, the Recycler gives you a 25% chance of the original ingredients back. You might wonder why only 25%, but when you take all the possible productivity bonuses into consideration, it needs to be this low to avoid a net positive recycling loop. This is also why we created an overall machine limit on productivity to be plus 300%, modifiable by mods if needed. So even when some mods add machines with more module slots and or better productivity modules, it will always be prevented from getting broken accidentally. It might be worth actually just looking at the animation just quickly. We'll notice that these inserters are putting in green circuits, and out of it is coming iron plate and copper wire, which are your constituent ingredients. And as you can kind of tell, it's a little difficult, I would say. You're putting in quite a few green circuits, and out of here is just coming a trickle of copper wires and iron plate. I really like this animation again. I mean, it's always, I know aesthetic of Factorio is sort of dirty and dingy and diesel punk and all that sort of stuff, but I love these models and animations that they do. I think it's really, aesthetically it's very consistent at the very least. I do like that this also is one that puts out onto belts, although this looks a little, I guess it's putting it out on the side of the belt that it's on, so it's got like a half belt in it, so it does sort of work. But it would be nice if it also inserted the items, because this grabber, you could almost imagine it would be able to eat from the belt, so that would be a nice little touch, I think, as well. The actual cost. With the Recycler in mind, we can produce legendary items in quite a simple way. We just create assembling machines filled with quality modules for each quality of ingredient, and recycle everything that's not perfect until you get the quality you want. This build takes electronic circuits and recycles them. The normal ingredients are returned back to the main factory, while quality ones are processed into quality electronic circuits, with any better than rare being stored in chests. With this straightforward approach, if you produce items of legendary quality, and you already have enough legendary quality 3 modules, which is not an easy thing to get in the first place, the legendary items are 56 times more expensive than normal items. But obviously, since items have a chain of steps to reduce them, every step has a potential to increase the quality of the intermediate products. With different approaches, and possibly different machines or other ways to improve the productivity of the process, teaser some Friday Facts content coming, the cost can be brought lower, but it will always be pretty expensive to get the best stuff. Unlocking quality tiers. Not all of the quality tiers will be available from the beginning. Only uncommon and rare is unlocked with the quality module research, and the better ones are unlocked later. More specifically, epic is on one of the 3 earlier planets and legendary on the last planet. Strategy implications. I'm happy with the strategy implications because they add more important decisions throughout the game. 1. You don't have the recycler soon in the game, so you can't really just recycle to get the best stuff. The most common way how to start with the quality is to just insert some quality modules into production of final products, which emits some higher quality products as a byproduct. This results in a stage of the game where you pick the very limited number of higher quality modules, machines, etc. made as a side effect, and you can decide what are the most important parts of the factory that need boosting. 2. Later, especially once you unlock recycling, it can be a huge trap to try to get too high quality of too many things too early. The cost is just too high, and you can easily realise that 90% of the production of your factory goes into trying to get the legendary core things you want. So, prioritization of where and how many resources go in is crucial, as well as deciding what items are most important to get in higher quality. It plays a huge role in the speed in which you move forward. On the other hand, if someone wants to just slow run the game and enjoy having everything semi-perfect and over-prepare before moving to another planet, the possibility is certainly there. When interplanetary logistics come into play, the quality plays a big role as things change. With normal quality products, it might be easier and more productive to make the things locally on the planet from the local resources rather than having to transfer it through rockets and space platforms. But once the standard goes up and you start using high quality entities more, the relative cost of the item and the rocket to transport it changes a lot, and it starts to be better to make each item production in one place and just transport it everywhere. It plays nicely with the space platform building part, as the space on the platform is quite limited and expensive. It is very efficient to save the best stuff you have for the platform, at least in the beginning. And lastly, number 5, in big numbers, the quality is basically statistics, but in small numbers, the random aspect can be quite fun in a different way. Especially for personal armors and equipment, we always ended up having an assembling machine, best quality modules in the center of the factory, dedicated for people trying to gamble for the best possible equipment for their personal use. The excitement of getting directly a rare power armor from common ingredients when you are super lucky is the same as getting bar in the slot machine or the wanted item in the pay-to-win loot box mechanics. But in Factorio, you don't have to take another mortgage on your house to enjoy this aspect of the game. So obviously a little bit of a dig at pay-to-win and those sorts of things there. But basically the point is that there are these 5 strategies that come into play as you play in the game. Engine support and history. Quality is the most mature feature of the expansion because I was developing its first versions internally before the 1.0 release, and it was kept in a separate branch the whole time. We were considering just putting it into the 1.0 release, but since we were already so behind our plan, similar story as the space platform, and this is the kind of feature that tends to create unexpected problems, and therefore delays, it was decided to just wait with it for the expansion. There are many internal changes we had to do in order to make quality integrated into the core of the game. Just the GUI changes are touching quite a lot of places on their own. In some places, you just select quality. In others, we had to allow the selection of a quality condition. So, for example, you could select to only upgrade assemblers with lower than uncommon quality, etc. This is a brief list of the places that come to mind. When you specify filters of Quick Buy Inventory Deconstruction Planner, when you order things from the logistics network, when you view statistics, in circuit network signals, in chat tags, in assembly recipe selection, in blueprint icon selection, in the upgrade planner, in the editor, and more. So it then gives an example in a diagram of selecting the quality type. So here with extra quality drop-down list, or rather rare is selected, and any normal, uncommon, rare, epic, legendary are your options for that. And note this less than symbol. So this is what I was saying before about we're getting a new way of filtering using the less than, greater than, equal to. Here, for example, the logistic requests allows setting either one specific quality or a quality condition. In this case, we are trashing all of the assemblers with lower than rare quality. Requesting items must use the equals condition, as using the other quality comparisons would be ambiguous and inefficient, hence the lower number is grayed out. But basically, this is going to let us say, right, bring me all modules that you've got, epic or higher quality. And that lets us do a more subtle search rather than just, bring me all the modules. And this is just the GUI. It obviously affects many parts of the game, including modding, API, etc. This means that I had to do very many complicated merges into the branch during 1.0 and 1.1 development, as many things were different in the branch. So almost anything that touched internal IDs, GUI, or tests was almost guaranteed to have a merge conflict. I believe that fellow programmers will sympathise with pain. basically that's what you do when you're developing the things. You check out a version of the code, and then when you check it back into the main branch, you have tools basically that will say what are the conflicts here. So this code you've changed, there's another bit of code that refers to it or uses it or what have you, and if you've changed the input parameters to a particular function, it will say you've just broken this whole code. So the basic point is that because of what he was working on, because it's so fundamental, he was changing a lot of stuff, and it would basically every time he tried to reintegrate what he'd done, it would be broken and he would have to fix it. And as someone who did quite a lot of programming when their start of their career, I know that pain. So once we started working on the expansion, this was the very first thing that was put there to finally escape this purgatory. This means that it is the most tested and feature both technically and also gameplay wise. This expansion might also make it more understandable why we don't plan to backport features we already have, like those from Friday Facts 374 into the 1.1. I don't imagine that they support my video, but I was asking the question of, for example, the robots, which is what 374 was about, is the changes to the logic of the robots. Why that wasn't being put into the main game now, because it just seemed a bit odd. If you're just improving the logic of the robots, it's a free feature, why not just stick it in now? And this is the reason that quality has been such a, and it was my guess at the time actually when I did the video, that they possibly refactored things to such a degree that it basically wouldn't work. You'd have to somehow separate it out and make it a really complicated job, and that's the reason. So basically we're not getting those features in now because putting them in would just be a massive amount of effort, and we'll get them all anyway. Even if you don't get the extension, you'll get all of the improvements because of the version 2 of the engine basically. Expansion only. To make things clear, the quality content is exclusively part of the expansion. The non-expansion binary works the same internally. It just doesn't allow any mod to define anything other than the normal quality. We've made it so that quality is invisible in the game until quality modules are unlocked. So you won't see anything related to quality if you haven't researched quality modules or are playing the base game. This includes all the GUI and interactions as mentioned earlier. It's also worth noting that while it's a lot of fun to play with quality, using it is completely optional. The expansion is balanced in a way that using quality can be beneficial, but it is reasonable to finish the game without touching quality at all. Typically, people who want to just finish the game are more likely to not touch quality much, while those who want to build a big factory will have very good reasons to use it. Conclusion. There are at least 2 full LAN playthroughs with quality even before space-related stuff is developed, and more after, with a lot of individual playthroughs on top of that. Each of those help to fix related bugs and tweak the functionality based on feedback. This means that I have enough evidence to be able to confidently say that pain was worth it, and this feature is fun to play with and works seamlessly. As always, let us know what you think in the usual places. The RoboPort is an epic one. What is interesting, particularly here, and this could just be an error, they might have accidentally not put it in or not put it, but we can't see the RoboPort Mark II, whereas the others we can obviously see, and they are the default icons. Whether this is because the item is getting a refresh, or there's a lot more meaning, or there's perhaps some hidden context that we can't tell without being able to see the item. If that was an error, I think they would have fixed it, but therefore seems like a deliberate exclusion, which is puzzling, especially when you're giving an example. Why pick at something that you're then not going to show us? Why not show, another machine? And the only thing I can think is that, well, there's several options. We could be getting new icons, and they don't want to spoil them, but it's a RoboPort. I know it's a personal RoboPort, but it's a RoboPort. And of course, last week's Factorio Friday Facts was about improved robots. And I pointed out then, and I'll come on to it back to it in a second, but pointing out then that they were sort of not quite showing us everything, and I think they were getting level 2 bots, like as a separate technology. It's very interesting. And the point I was going to say about was that a commenter, SG Hausman, I'm not sure how you pronounce that username, but on my video last week, it's very weird to be showing my own video on the stream, but basically they made a comment, so down here, basically 2218 in the video, which is where I was talking about the weird icons, or the weird inventory what contents of that they were showing in this picture. And they pointed out it is a weird list. And if you look closely, the red cables are in multiple places and they don't stack. They're also at incorrect places. It sorts like the craft menu. So they are hiding new units from us with red cables. And then they go on to say charging poles, newer rubber ports, newer, better bots. Could be because I pointed out that could be what I was talking about, that we're getting level 2 bots. If you look at this, they're exactly right, and it's a very good spot. And if you want to drop comments on the videos, very much appreciate it. I'll usually try and reply. But basically, what they're pointing out is they don't have the numbers. So you see, it's got 50 on the chests and those sorts of things. Well, these red wires that are in the middle here. And why are they not stacked with the others? You can do unstacked inventories, but they don't have numbers on them. So there's no number on this item. And so the point was that there's something else under that, in that slot. It's not a red wire. And they've just quickly copied that up and pasted it over. But yeah, to me, and especially when you look at where it is, this is what I was pointing out in my reply. Those two are next to the roboports. So is this a level 2 roboport? Or is this a something like that, because it's in that block of stuff of bots and logistics chests and roboports. And Pesman was pointing out that it could be charging poles or something like that will improve bot coverage and stuff like that without having to produce, because roboports are one of the most expensive items in the game. So yeah, I think this is more evidence with this missing roboport that there is something more. At the very least, there's something more coming with robots and roboports and that sort of thing. And my view is it's going to be a level 2 or a change to how something works. It is interesting. It does still talk about it as a Mark II roboport. So if there was a Mark III roboport, why tempt that fate, as it were. So it might just be that a very simple explanation is just that they're redoing the icons and they didn't want to show them. But why not? In this style, just stick a new icon in, replace the old icon over the top. I've actually, because I'm a nerd, I've converted this into a spreadsheet and a graph, so we'll have a look at that. So yes, I've converted this into a graph, as it kind of helped me understand it a little bit better, and I'll try and explain what this is showing. I used yellow for normal, because it doesn't have a colour, but it was just to make it visually distinct. And then you've got uncommon is the green ones, the rare ones is blue, epic is that pink colour, and legendary is the orange. And what I've added in to help me understand is the normal value here, because it doesn't have that in the original table, and I didn't understand what was going on because it was just telling me 10%, 1%, 0.1%, 0.01%, which obviously doesn't add up to 100%. And I think the point is that you get, obviously, a normal item going in, as we saw on that first belt in particular, has a mostly chance of getting a normal item out. I have scaled this, by the way. This is chopped off. There's a 50% bottom here, which is just more of the same. But basically, you get this sort of normal items going in. There's most of them are going to come out as normal, 88.89%, and then uncommon and rare coming out again. Now, I've taken a little bit of an assumption here in that I believe if you put an uncommon, or rare or epic item in, you won't get a lower tier. Now, obviously, the table could have values in here and you might get a lower tier, but basically, if you're putting an uncommon item in, there's a 0% chance of getting a normal item out. And similarly, if you put an epic item in, there's a 0% chance of getting a rare, uncommon, or normal. I think that's what it's implying. But say that could be wrong. You might be putting epic items in and getting normal items out. That would seem a bit unfair, especially when we get to the next mechanic. But basically, yes. So as you go up, it's always like a 10% less chance. So 1% is 10% of 10%, 0.01 is 10% of 1%, 0.01 is 10% of 0.1. So basically, it's like an exponential type curve. In fact, it's logarithmic, I think, isn't it? And basically, that's what this is showing. So you see, this is 10% of the graph, and then obviously because uncommon items going in can't get uncommon items out, it's then 90%. So everything is guaranteed. But then this is 10%, this is 10%, this is 10%. You see, and it's sort of the same chunk, but it moves up in quality. But basically, yes. So you've always got a 10% chance, is the basic point, of getting the next tier up. And then you've got a small fraction of a chance of getting the next tier up. So, Spidertron, yes, and your own inventory, getting both a boost to the equipment grid and the inventory, and that's that's such a relief. It's something I've moaned about a lot. Is Spidertron not having a very big equipment grid in particular? It seemed daft to me because it's this giant spider machine on legs, and it's got this tiny equipment grid compared to you. +1 in each direction means one row and one column in each direction. So, a legendary Spidertron will have an additional 4 rows and an additional 4 columns as well. So that's an enormous amount of extra space. And the last one is one of something I've been saying should have been in the game from the very beginning, is larger reveal ranges for radars. So it does say reveal ranges, which is a little worrying. I hope that means the cover, like the normal area, not just that it can look further away. That would be great, but we really need to get radars that have double the coverage, because you just end up with so many radars. It's just not sensible. And if you've got a really big blueprint, it'll be outside of the radar range and you can't really see where you're putting it. We need bigger radars, and I hope that's what that means, and it's not just that they can reveal a tile further away. The night mining drills, I just noted that it was interesting that it talks about depletes resources slower. And so this sounds like it's operating on a different axis. So you would still get productivity bonus, presumably, as one of your researches. And you can just stack that up and stack that up. So effectively, if you imagine you get a really big productivity bonus on a mining drill, and it produces 5 items for every one that it uses, effectively what it's saying is that it wouldn't necessarily use 1 item. So you just magicking 5 bits of ore out of nowhere. There is also this Tease with different approaches and possibly different machines or other ways to improve the productivity of the process. Tease of some future Friday Facts content. The cost can be brought lower, but it will always be pretty expensive to get the best stuff. So it's directly in reference to the fact that it basically, to get legendary quality items, they're 56 times more expensive than regular items. But what they're teasing here is, and it's very specific, it's very clear, different approaches, possibly, so they may be optional, different machines. They could be like self-referring to the quality itself, in that different machines could be taken to be higher quality machines. But to me that means we're getting some different machines or other ways to improve the productivity of the process. So we don't know, we'll have to see what those are, but different approaches might be a bot-based build with level 2 bots. Different machines, again, could be talking about the recycler effectively, and ways to improve the productivity of the process. So this to me suggests we're getting a lot more. I mean, we knew we were, it's not going to be a surprise, but we're getting mechanics that change how we make things and improve how we make things. To me, that suggests, we've already had a bit of a tease of smelting and grinding and crushing. I think we're getting the equivalent technologies of something like refinement and stuff like that. So you can effectively put maybe an ore, and it's in quite a few of the mods, put an ore into a crusher or something like that, and it produces more iron effectively out of a single iron ore than you would have normally, and therefore you're increasing your productivity all the time. So they're kind of getting into this phase, as I was saying with the whole thing, of basically your mega basing is going to be made a lot easier, but through more complicated mechanics. So you would still be able to do the standard just big, but this is saying you don't have to do big, you can do other ways of doing more, basically. That's my interpretation of that. So let's have a look at this example of a factory making high quality green circuits. It's a little bit complicated, and because it's a new mechanic, it took me a little while to work out what's going on. The first thing to note is that these are legendary machines, legendary recyclers rather, but we know that legendary recycle is just about speed, because production machines are just about speed. One of the things I think is interesting is that they've not used the high quality inserters. That was obviously just for the other ones. So they're just regular quality inserters. And what's feeding in here are regular quality green circuits. So it's not feeding in higher quality on this side. As you can see, the belt's flipping through quite fast. Let's just pause it for a second. But you can see we're getting quite a few green items coming out. because the machines have got legendary quality, tier 3 quality modules in, 4 of. It's also not really easy on this side to confirm quite what's going on, because you know that point I made about if you put in legendary items, will you always get, you know, legendary products? The recycler, of course, takes things apart, so we don't know if it works the same way. These are filter splitters. There is, I think, at some point during... Yes, there you go. So there is something produced. There is a small chance of that being produced, and it does fire out of here, and it filters it through, and it also then filters it through into here. You've then got a splitter because, you know, it'll be splitting between them. But you see, it's very, very rare. In fact, I'm not sure this machine actually produces one in the clip. It does produce lots more green items, and it's using another filter here. It's got sorts of stack of filters basically in order to send items around. So it's going from 4 to 3 to 2, and this is obviously sending these 4s to there, and then everything else coming up here. But basically the level 3s come here and the level 2s come here. Well, what you can do is you can actually set, it would appear, the quality level of the item that you want to produce. So that's interesting. So basically we can select the quality level. When you're doing a green circuit recipe, you can select whether it's going to produce level 1, 2, 3 or 4 or 5 in the actual machine, which is interesting. I didn't understand that was how it's going to work when I was reading it through initially. And what this is basically doing then is that this is putting in level 2 items, and it's making level 2 circuits, and I believe it doesn't make anything lower than that. So it's always making level 2, and this is what I was saying. This is why I went back to that table, basically tried to work out what, you know, where had the missing percentages gone. And same here, this blue one, because it's getting blue items in, it will only ever produce blue, you know, level 3 quality items. And as you can see, there are only level 2, 3, 4 here. There is a small, remember, statistic, you know, small chance that it will produce a higher level. And this machine has obviously produced a level 4 module out of that. So that's why it's got legendary quality modules in, so it can increase the chances of producing those. So then it's got you know, so we've got 2s, 3s, 3s, 4s here. And this filter, I say this has got the symbol on it again, is basically saying anything above level 2, stick it in a chest. I mean, you'd think that would be a logistics chest, but basically stick it in a chest here. And so it's storing levels 3, 4 and 5 legendary green circuits. The rest is going for recycling, and what they're doing here is they're blending in so that these machines aren't sat idle. And so it's sending the level 2, which are the ones you would expect to get out of there, except occasionally it will chuck out a higher level one, of course. Sending those for recycling, and so these are then taking in both normal green circuits, so they're not idle, and blending in the recycled ones, and then they're pumping out the quality things there. So what it's effectively saying is it's kind of magicking up legendary level items out of already produced stuff. So it's not doing this whole... initially, they've got a factory somewhere that's producing normal green circuits, and then they're using this process to generate 3, 4 and 5 level items. They're also spitting out the normal stuff. That's what that's doing, and that presumably is recycling back into the factory that is producing the green circuits. So it's quite complicated, is the basic point, which is good in a sense, because it gives us something complicated to play with in the new expansion. So it sounds like they're locking off modders' ability to like implement quality. Modders would be able to just put in the feature unless it really changed the code base. They'd just be able to put it in basically. So and copy it and like preemptively do it. And of course, if you're selling a product, you don't want the product to be given away free by somebody else, really. But this is also part of the reason that basically they're going to lock this off in such a way that a modder can't just come in and turn it on again and give it away to everyone for free. So that's a bit of an interesting feeling. I don't know what the reaction's been in the modding community, but it is interesting. It is also going to make modding quite complicated, because you're going to have these features that, you know, if you're writing a mod, I guess it needs to either be filtered to just the expansion, just the base game, or it needs to take account of both, in which case you're going to have to account for things like that. So this horizontal versus vertical growth thing, it was quite interesting reading it through, because as a long-term Civ player, the way of playing of the game wide and deep, I think in Civ is the sort of traditional tactics. They've sort of stopped you really being able to do it from 4, I think, but you used to be able to do a thing where you basically covered the map in small towns, basically, and just used every single tile. But all of your cities, you had loads of cities and they were all very small. And then the other strategy was just to have a few cities that had like enormous populations and were just like production powerhouses. So the idea being that if you spread it across lots of tiles, lots of cities, although it takes like 50 turns to make a tank, you've got 50 cities, so you get a tank a turn. And the other one is that you can make a single city that's so productive that it can make a tank every turn. So, it's like balancing those two approaches. It's quite interesting thinking about Factorio in those terms, because it is sort of like that. There's that idea of you just expand and you just grow and grow and grow. And the other change you can do is to go deeper and deeper and deeper, except it's quite limited with Factorio because you've got belt speeds, you've got machine speeds, and certain space limitations for a number of modules and beacons and stuff. So basically, this quality thing feels a little like them giving you more depth options. This quality stuff seems to be driven at more productive production, effectively, and so faster assembly machines and those sorts of things are going to make builds smaller, because they mentioned that there's no boost to belts, so belts are still going to be for the same number of items. So yeah, you'll still be limited in that sense. So you'll be more like, let's have one machine and it's got 5 belts coming off of it, sort of thing. Yeah, I guess I'm not the biggest fan, if I'm totally honest, of this RPG mechanic from a naming and like convention point of view. I never really liked in RPGs where you get, you'll get a pistol with, epic quality and these sorts of things. It always felt really artificial to me, because, it's sort of the same thing with like wear and tear, effectively. So you could say, and it's why it's something like Stalker, which had one of the first games I played with, where you had weapon degradation and stuff like that. It's sort of the same thing in the sense that, if it's a high quality version of the item in the sense that it works and it's not broken, whereas the low quality item, maybe the stock's broken and stuff like that. You can sort of think it in those terms, I guess. But that's always, this is the best item when it's, new, and then it gets worse over time, sort of thing. That makes more sense to me than you just randomly get items that are really, really great quality. It does sort of work in a sense in the real world, in that when they're making CPU chips, basically, because there are factors they can't control for, like material quality and stuff like that, you get like if you get a die of CPU chips on it, basically some of them will be of higher quality than others because of just the materials that were there and how the process worked, etc. So it does sort of make sense in a sense, but yes, I'm not a massive fan. I'm also not a massive fan of having like 5 levels and uncommon, rare, epic, literally. I always find the terming really confusing. But so I'll probably be thinking about them in terms of level 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 quality rather than these things here. Okay, so thoughts overall. I'm cautiously excited, I guess. I say I'm not a massive fan of this naming convention. It feels weird to be sticking in an RPG mechanic. Not keen on that, but that's a naming and a familiarity and that sort of thing. What I think this really does is give us their version of mega basing. The community kind of came up with mega basing, as a sort of an end game, given that it just stops weirdly. Factorio, you launch a rocket, so what? What does that do for you? I'm hoping there's a proper end to this, by the way, that although you can keep playing, conquering the last planet gives you a tech that basically means you can go home and finish the game. Maybe not, but I say, that's effectively what happens. But yeah, I think this is their version of mega basing, in the sense that, because one of the things you have to remember is if you're adding in lots of extra planets, well, lots, 5 extra planets, that means you're going to have 5 maps, and you've got trains moving about, you've got rockets going up to platforms, you've got spaceships traveling between platforms and planets, and it gets a lot more complicated in terms of stuff happening in the game all at the same time. And so, you need mechanics really to make it so that you don't have to have such big builds. You know, if you imagine a mega base built on every single planet, would just bring your your PC would melt no matter how good it is. So I think this is like a way of saying, right, well, you can have big numbers, but you do it by having, builds like this where 8 assembly machines are producing whatever the heck this is, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So each one is producing 2, I think it's 2 lanes, isn't it? No, it's 1 lane of green circuits, and therefore, that's just off the charts in terms of production. But yeah, this is their way of doing megabase, in that you don't need 1,000 machines making circuits. You can do it with 10, but to get those 10, you've got to do this complicated process. So that has me excited. I love the idea that it's optional. That you can just opt into it, and it's quite clever to put it as part of modules. When you're a new player, and so, maybe it was just me, but when you're a new player, you tend to avoid things like modules because they're complicated, and you don't know how to make them and what they do or how they work, and it's an extra mechanic that you don't need to finish the game. And so you just push on and do them, or you'll do something like you'll only do level 3s at the end of the game. You won't bother with the intermediates. So locking it into as a sort of a extra version of modules is quite clever in that sense, because it means it's an area of the game newbies are less likely to go near, with within an area, and it's within that it's an extra complication. So they can say, oh, this is just too much for me, I'm just going to build a factory and launch a rocket sort of thing. I don't need this, so I'm not going to use it. Well, thanks for watching this read-through and speculation of Friday Facts 375 quality. If you've got any thoughts, I would love to hear them in the comments below. And if you want to speculate along and discuss the Friday Facts next time, then you can join my live stream on Twitch Magistus on Twitch. Anyway, if you have been watching, I hope you've enjoyed it and you might consider coming back for another one. I've been Triz Magistus. This has been Factorio. Thanks for watching. Cheers.